Hi everybody, today I'm going to be talking about tea and perfume. So tea is probably one of my favorite notes in perfumery. I'm not really a tea drinker. I actually probably prefer coffee as a drink for the utility. But when I have the opportunity to, I enjoy the steam and the warmth and the ritual of making tea. What's interesting to me about tea and fragrance is how it doesn't always come across the way tea tastes. It can also be transportive and it creates more of a setting rather than merely just the cup. So today, I'm going to describe my collection of tea perfumes as someone who's fascinated by how perfumers create the ersatz, or emulate the memory, of tea. I'll be ranking them on a scale based on how much they actually smell like tea. This doesn't really correlate with how much I enjoy them, because some of my favorites don't smell like tea at all, but it's a way to measure how transportative each one is. For the first category, we have most realistic teas, so it smells like putting your nose into a tin of loose tea leaves. The first one I have on this list is Oolong Tea by One Day, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 for teeness. This one's nutty, warm, and slightly bitter, and it smells exactly like loose leaf oolong tea. There's sweetness from the florals and jasmine, and also a touch of honey, adding some animalic qualities, but the tea note is definitely the main character here. It's dry and earthy. It feels like brewing tea in a quiet and dimly lit kitchen with an apron on and the steam is hitting your face. I think this house is extremely underrated. One Day is a house out of Hong Kong, and a lot of their other perfumes have the same refinement and photorealistic imagery. Like their jasmine tea is really good, and their pu'er tea is really good as well. For the next one, we have Bulgari pour Homme Eau de Parfum by Jacques Cavalier, and this was made in 1996, so a while ago. I gave it a 4 out of 5 for teeness. This one's sharper and aromatic, and it has notes of tea, ginger, and gaiac wood. It comes across very peppery and savory on the opening, and it develops into kind of an umami bitterness. It's very intellectual and stern. I would imagine a drafting engineer would wear this. Somebody who's focused, precise, detail-oriented, and understated. Tea is definitely here, but it's woven into this smart and severe style, like an architecture. It reminds me of the concrete battleship in Pasadena on Los Robles, that mansion. For the next category, we have the spa types. These are the perfumes that smell clean, crisp, and expensive, like hotel soap or fresh towels. The first one we have on this list is Neroli Amara by Van Cleef & Arpels. I believe this was made by Quentin Biche, and I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 for teeness. It opens with a very juicy orange combined with neroli, and it's also a little bit sweet. I believe that's coming from the pear. There's a slight lift from the pepper, but the base smells like when you're a child and your mom throws a warm comforter over you that's straight out of the dryer. It's very clean, envelops you. It's very elegant and classy. I think the tea is very faint, so it's more of an accord than a one-to-one. Up next, we have Au Thé Vert by Bulgari. It's an eau de cologne by Jean-Claude Elena, and it was released in 1992, so it's the oldest one on this list. I gave it a 2.5 out of 5 for teeness. Because it's an eau de cologne, it's very fleeting. It has top notes of lemon and bergamot with coriander, cardamom, and some soft florals. It's refreshing, but also sheer, and unfortunately it fades really quickly into a soapy musk. To me, it smells like clean skin that's slightly wet. You've just stepped out of the shower and you used a little green hotel soap bar that was shaped like a leaf, and you're wrapping yourself in a freshly laundered towel. It's very comforting, but definitely not strong tea. An interesting story about this is that the perfumer, Jean-Claude Elena, actually pretty much started this tea perfume genre, but he had a hard time getting a brand to manufacture it. And a few years later, the concept for this green tea perfume was poached by Francis Kurkdjian for Elizabeth Arden. And this was about 7 years later in 1999. Kirkjohn's green tea with Elizabeth Arden ended up becoming a really huge hit, as you know it is today. And Eau de Vert is still pretty unknown. So just some interesting trivia there. Up next we have Eau de Blanc, which is by Jacques Cavalier as well. And it was made in 2003. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 for tiness. This would be the younger sibling to Eau de Vert. It's still very citrusy and peppery, but this time it adds a musk and orange blossom note, as well as artemisia, which gives it this slightly bitter feeling, emulating that of tea. It's paler, more powdery, and definitely more tea-like, but still in the same hotel spa category. For the next category, we have perfumes that take it into a darker and moodier direction, ones that create more of the whole scene rather than just the cup or the brewing experience. The next one we have is Gris Charnel Eau de Parfum by BDK, which I gave a 3 out of 5 for tiness. This one is one of the most popular tea scents in recent times, other than Imagination by Louis Vuitton. The tea is in the background here. Fig, cardamom, and sandalwood definitely dominate. There's iris as well, but it smells soft and woolen, like wearing a cozy sweater in the winter. It's smooth and well blended, and maybe even a little bit sweet, but the tea is definitely very subtle here. It's more about the mood and the state of mind with which you're in when you drink tea than photorealism. Up next, we have L'Ombre de Merveille by Christine Nagel for Hermes, and I gave this a 1 out of 5 for tiness. This one is pretty purely tonka, amber, and incense. It's mysterious and savory. The imagery I get here is rinsing off after you spend a whole day at the beach. The shower steam is mixing with incense that you've lit in the corner, and out of the window in the hotel shower you can see the coastline and hear the crashing waves at sunset. Sunlight is coming in, and your hair is still a little bit crunchy from the seawater, and your skin is also still slightly sticky from the salt water. This one's really interesting, and I love smelling this, but it's also not very tea at all. The next category we have is fruity or sparkling interpretations of tea. These are definitely more playful. They can go in a sparkly, fizzy, or even effervescent direction, which is very different than the meditative direction I feel like a lot of perfumers will take it. I could imagine these perfumes invoke the image of playing in the garden while you sit and enjoy a cup of tea. The first one I have on this list is Dear Polly by Wilhelm Parfumerie, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 for tiness. This one opens up with a crisp green apple. It's tart and juicy, and it's backed by a bright bergamot note. The black tea comes in, and there's moss and smoke as well here, which darken the image. It's refreshing and also very deep. It invokes the image of biting into an apple as your only breakfast, as you're walking to class on a cool autumn morning. Nobody's on campus, and the dew is still wet on the grass. The next one I have on this list is Ethereal Wave by Lise, and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 for tiness. This one feels like Dear Polly, but it's a little bit more chic and sparkling. The person who wears this probably gets more sun than the person who wears Dear Polly. It's more citrus, more floral, lighter. It's almost effervescent, like champagne bubbles in a glass on a boat in the ocean on a sunny day. It's very elegant and very wearable. Up next we have Aqua Allegoria Tesoura by Guerlain, and I gave it a 2 out of 5 for tiness. This one is a mix of citrus with chamomile and jasmine, but it also has a cologne note that gives it a watery and almost melon-like accord. It doesn't really smell like tea. It smells more like grass and sun to me. It smells like warming up for an AYSO soccer game in the morning, and the field is torn up from the cleats. There's yellow dandelions in the grass. The air is bright. It's a little bit strange and nostalgic, but when I wear this, it's very inconsistent because of the cologne note, which presents itself differently at different wearing temperatures. So for the next category, we have complex interpretations, which include tea in a large blend of different notes. The first one I have on this list is GA, Dandy or Not by d'Orsay, and I give it a 2.5 out of 5 for tiness. There's leather, cardamom, grapefruit, orange blossom, and woods as notes in this one. But the leather here is not heavy at all. It smells like suede on a jacket that you have draped on the back of your chair. It's very soft. The tea pulls it all together in a balance. It's complex, but certainly not overwhelming at all. It smells like being a child and snooping through your father's office. There's a leather jacket on the chair. Sunlight is streaming in through half-closed blinds, and it's a little bit dusty when you open the creaky dresser, and his sweaters smell a bit citrusy. Up next, we have Rosendaux Mathieu's No. 1, which I give a 3 out of 5 for teaness. This one comes on strong with green notes and citrus. There's bergamot, lime, mandarin, lavender, rosemary, sage, and thyme, as well as neroli, jasmine, musk, sandalwood, and tea leaf. So you can tell there are a lot of notes here. It smells like laundry sheets, which are waving in the wind, and they're hooked on lines near an herb garden and orange trees. It's very thick and luscious and verdant. Tea is very nuanced here, and it's far behind the spotlight. It feels like a portrait of a sunny day in the garden. Up next, we have Voyage d'Hermès, the Eau de Parfum by Jean-Claude Ellena. And this I gave a 2.5 out of 5 for teaness. This one has notes of cardamom, lemon, juniper, and some peppery woods. I would say Voyage d'Hermès is less about tea and more of an abstraction or about being transported. Cardamom and citrus give it a creamy and aromatic kind of warmth, which invokes the feeling of being handed a cup of spiced tea in a foreign place. There's a sense of discovery here. It's pleasant and well composed, but tea is definitely more of a supporting character here. Up next, we have Thé Noir 29 by Le Labo, and I give it 3.5 out of 5 for teaness. It's really good. This one is really hard for me to review because it's so nostalgic. When I first bought it a few years ago, it smelled like red wine, a little bit boozy, with a plume of dry and fruity projection. Now I can distinguish the flesh of a fig, the vetiver, woods, Le Labo musk, which is very iconic, the tobacco, and dry black tea, but it still feels complex. It's like a potpourri that was composed by a perfumer. The tea here is really refined and sophisticated. I imagine this is what I would smell when catching sight of the most beautiful stranger walking past and only having a second to glance over at them. I hardly wear this one because I feel like I can't live up to the vibe that it projects. Lastly, we have Creed's Silver Mountain Water, which I gave a 2 out of 5 for teaness. I really did not like this one at all when I first got a sample. It comes off very sharp and inky with the black currant, citrus, petit grain, and a burst of tea, but it's very cold. I imagine drinking a bottle of chilled water that you paid too much for at the bottom of a ski slope, and the sound of snow is crunching beneath your boots. It's crisp and tonic, but it doesn't really give the sensation that I want from smelling tea. I think tea should warm you on a cold day or cool you on a hot day. But this one is cold on cold, which leaves me a little bit unsatisfied. So that's all I have for you today. These are the ones which I've had the opportunity to wear multiple times and compose thoughts about them through the opening and the dry down. I've tried Byredo's Cellier, Nishane's Oolong Ta, Armani's Thé Oolong, Louis Vuitton's Imagination, and Molecule 01's Black Tea as well, but I believe I'm not experienced enough with them to draw conclusions about them. I think there is some overlap here, but many of the ones I have not reviewed here would not be ranked high for teaness, especially Cellier, which is very similar to Santal 33 from Le Labo. I've also had the opportunity to try Le Labo's Thé Matcha and J-Scent's Roasted Green Tea, but I found they didn't really fit here as they address a very different category of tea scent, that being matcha. As a recap, I would say Oolong Tea by One Day, and the whole house of One Day is unrivaled for realism when it comes to tea. Out of all of these, I probably wear d'Orsay's Dandy or Not or Voyage d'Hermès the most. Anyway, let me know which one sounds the most interesting, or if I missed out on one of your favorite tea perfumes, let me know in the comments because I would love to explore. Thank you for watching.
Spirit.